Before we begin, please support the channel by subscribing. It really helps me create more calm, slow history stories like this one. Now, close your eyes, take a slow breath, and let's go back in time to a small, cold village somewhere in medieval Europe. The story of medieval life does not begin in castles or cathedrals, but in mud, thick, heavy, brown mud that clings to every shoe and every wall. The kind of mud that never dries, that smells faintly of smoke and rain, and never lets go of what it touches. Most people in the Middle Ages were not knights, nor nobles, nor monks in quiet stone halls. They were peasants, the nameless millions, who lived and died on the same patch of earth, without ever traveling farther than the next village. Their day began long before the sun rose. The air inside the cottage was cold, smelling of animals and people and damp straw. A rooster crowed outside, and the gray light of dawn slipped through cracks in the wall. The peasants' homes were small, made of mud, sticks, and straw. The roof sagged with age. The floor was the earth itself. When it rained, water seeped through the ceiling, trickling into puddles on the ground where children slept. There was no separation between life and work. In the same space, they cooked, they ate, they talked, they slept alongside pigs, chickens, or goats that shared their warmth. The fire in the center of the room burned low, its smoke curling upward through a hole in the roof, leaving the air thick and gray. Breakfast, if it could be called that, was a crust of dark bread, hard enough to break a tooth. Sometimes they dipped it in ale, because water was often unsafe to drink. It wasn't much, but it was enough to walk to the fields. Outside, the morning was quiet, except for the wind and the low hum of insects. The fields stretched endlessly, patches of brown and green beneath a pale sky. They did not own this land. It belonged to the lord who lived in a stone manor on the hill, a man whose face most of them never saw. Still, they worked his soil because their lives depended on it. The soil was stubborn, filled with stones, heavy with clay. The wooden plows bit slowly, dragged by oxen that grunted with effort. Each furrow took time, and the sun, when it came, brought no mercy. Their hands blistered, their backs bent. They wiped sweat from their faces with rough sleeves, leaving streaks of dirt. And through it all, they kept going because to stop was to starve. There were no breaks, no weekends, no rest days, except Sunday, when they walked to the small church in the center of the village. The priest spoke in Latin, a language they did not understand, but his voice was calm, and for that 1 hour they could sit and believe that their suffering meant something. The year was divided by seasons. Spring was hope, the smell of plowed earth, the first green shoots pushing through the ground. Summer was work, long days, sweat dripping down tired faces, arms darkened by the sun. Autumn was fear, harvest, and prayer, wondering if there would be enough to last the winter. And winter was silence. When snow fell, the fields froze, the tools rested, and the hunger began. The small huts grew colder each night. Fires burned weakly, smoke filling the rooms. Children coughed in their sleep. Mothers wrapped them in rags. Fathers mended tools by candlelight, hoping for an early spring. Food ran low, the bread grew smaller, the broth thinner. If a family had stored grain, they guarded it carefully. Rats, neighbors, and desperation made everyone equal. Illness came often. A fever could sweep through a village and take half of it within days. There were no doctors, only herbs, prayers, and the hope that morning would come. Sometimes it did. Sometimes it didn't. Clothes were rough, made of wool that itched and never quite dried. Each person had one outfit, patched and repaired until it was more whole than fabric. Shoes, if they existed, were leather, hard and cracked from years of wear. Many walked barefoot through mud and frost alike. And yet life continued. There were weddings, laughter, songs sung softly around a fire. Children played with sticks, pretending to be knights. Mothers smiled when a loaf of bread rose perfectly. Fathers stood at the door, watching the fields turn gold in the fading sun. The peasants' lives were small, but not meaningless. They built the world quietly, stone by stone, field by field. They endured storms, plagues, and wars they never started. They lived, they loved, they died, and the world moved on. When night came, the fire dimmed, the hut sank into stillness. The last voices faded into sleep. Outside, the wind brushed through the empty fields, and the stars looked down on a world that never noticed them. So tonight, as you rest, think of them, the forgotten ones, who worked the soil so others could dream. The nameless millions, whose lives were nothing but the rhythm of the seasons and the will to survive. Breathe slowly, the air is calm, the world is quiet now. And somewhere in the distance, a church bell rings, echoing across the dark fields, marking another day in the long, tired life of the medieval peasant. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please consider subscribing for more stories. Sleep well